So it's easy for us to get carried away with landscaping when we start to manipulate the idea of parking lots, trees that we want to grow. And one of the things to consider is where we go right back to the start of this series of lectures, and that idea there's many different types of climates. In some areas of the country, water is a precious commodity. Managing it, holding on to it, not needing it to grow things can be very important. Obviously, in the Northeast, we're very seldom concerned about water for our plantings, but it would be a terrible situation, I guess, or a poorly designed situation for the architect to design something that required extra irrigation in a place where water was a scarce commodity. And so this idea of xeriscaping comes up, and I guess I would fast forward to this image probably better. This is a desert climate. We have drought tolerant or low water requirement plantings. We don't have grass growing. We have, in order to create a visual, interesting environment, we have rock, stone, sand. So this idea of the landscape mating more with what you would see around the buildings over this is now becoming a pretty mainstream concept. There was a time where Arizona would develop and the developer would plant a green grass lawn, and every day the watering system would pop up to water the lawn and try to maintain a green lawn in this hot, arid environment. So we've become a long ways from that, and we want to keep in mind that this idea of um, landscaping should be something that it pays attention to the local, micro, and even regional climates that are around us. And we need to consult with people if we're not familiar with those issues. So here we have, a desert type environment, or doesn't even really have to be desert like an arid environment. The old way of thinking was to plant a lawn. We needed to mow it, we needed to fertilize it, we needed to add water to it. A more sophisticated way of thinking about this localized enhancement of our landscape is with things that, well, aren't growing but are still able to absorb water, control runoff, fit with the existing climate ecosystem, the natural vegetation. Our plantings are native. They haven't been brought from other climates, and we didn't try to manage them. They typically in low water requirement plants for environments that are especially harsh, where we still want to have some a semblance of natural growing. So these are things to just keep in mind to go to associate when we hear this idea of xeriscaping, and where we may pick sites that are in climates much different than our Alfred, New York climate. And so I'll just tie this back. We're going to eventually do the lab. The lab will try to integrate the idea of plantings, porous paver parking lot, dealing with runoff, making a retention pond. So while I lay out a very generic way to structure through these, we can take all of the components of these mini lectures, and you can come up with something that's of your own design or your own thinking. And then once again, I ask you to click through the site's version 2 lead associated, I guess, checklist and narrative about thinking about all of this idea of landscaping and site and enhancing our built environment with concerns towards creating a high quality global environment.